prior to the interview. Leonardo.
Hello, I'm Leonardo Trent, and I'm running for Charlotte County School Board in District 2. And people usually, first let me describe myself. I'm a high school senior, still a high school senior, about to graduate in mid-May for Charlotte High School in Punta Gorda. And people sometimes ask me why I'm running for this public office in the first place, especially since I'm in high school. I say I have the unique experience of being a high school senior, seeing and witnessing all of this, and attending the school board meetings and seeing things that could be changed within the school board. I started the Republican Club in Charlotte High. Sometimes they call it youth in government. They like to mix things up. They don't really like using the Republican name over at Charlotte High still, after fighting with them when they violated the Equal Access Law from the 1980s. So, but after much fight with the assistant principal, we eventually got the club, and we got a club going with students in Charlotte High. It's a free and open, liberty-minded club where they all come in and with conservative ideals and we share things, and then we invite them to dinners or the Republican Club meetings and get involved in the government here in Charlotte County. So. And I've also been attending the school board meetings lately, and one meeting and one particular issue that made me really consider starting this run in the first place was back then last year with senior graduation for the class of 2023, with such a simple and easy issue of moving the graduation over to the football field away from the event center, where they only had ticket caps to invite 4 people over to the graduation, and like a quarter of everyone going to the graduation would have to be stuck in a room watching everything virtually, which defeats the whole purpose of going to the graduation in the first place. And I proposed and made a petition that was pretty successful, gained about 2,500 petitions to move the graduation over to Charlotte High and have the ticket cap raised to 9 because of the capacity there. The event center was also a fire hazard, by the way. The football field was not. And everyone was united. We all came together. Even the students that kind of despised me even agreed and wanted this petition to go through. And we brought it up to the school board. We all stuck together. But then they said, oh, it's the principal's issue. The principal has to deal with it. Us as the Charlotte County School Board have nothing to do with graduation. So then we went to the principal, and then the principal said, it's not our issue, it's the school board's issue. And this is what happens so many times. We have the usual back and forth between school board and the principal saying, no, you do this and you do that. Not wanting to take responsibility for caring about the people's needs and actually making Charlotte County Public Schools the best it could be.
That's right.
So once after that, I saw that the school board one could not answer questions. I never seen anybody give input to the school regarding the graduation or regarding the spending and budgeting, tax millage, even safe space stickers in the schools or changing the curriculum. I've never seen anybody give input to the school and then the school actually take action on it or answer questions or get back to them. And if they do get back to them, they usually say, it's not my responsibility. which is like, it's the school board members, they have full responsibility. So I decided to run for school board after that. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna run for school board, and there needs to be change, and I'm a senior. I've even had my constitutional rights and First Amendment rights taken away from the school back then when some students reported me to the dean's office for being against anti-abortion on Instagram. on my own private matter. I got reported to the dean's office for that. And then the dean's office says, stop talking politics on Instagram and don't talk politics at all unless people ask you to, which is a First Amendment violation. Happens in Charlotte County schools. What happens with these administrators is that they often get the administrators and then use the students, for lack of a better term, ignorance on the law, and take advantage of them and just trample on their rights without knowing that they actually have rights. They don't. These students need to be taught first and foremost that they have rights, and that is what's going to change when you have when I propose the 1776 project curriculum in Charlotte County schools. Is that you have to teach these kids the Constitution and their civil rights and their civil liberties and their First Amendment rights as citizens. Yes, that's what I want to do. I want to put the 1776 project so that things like this, where you want to start a club or you want to start an open space and you want free speech on campus, nobody can trample on your rights for that. These are government employees. They can't take your rights away for that. And another thing I want to be doing, getting back to the safe space stickers thing. First of all, Charlotte County Public Schools is a Neola district. And have you all heard of Neola before? So Neola is a school board consulting firm, and that is the consulting firm that writes the policies for Charlotte County Public Schools. And Neola has a track record in history of getting around the CRT legislation coming from states and writing policies for the school board that they can write, can put CRT policies into the schools. And then you have these things like Safe Space 6 with the LGBT flags that blew up online, and then everyone was questioning the school board about it, and they wouldn't budge, they wouldn't answer, they wouldn't do anything. They're still there. You still have LGBT gay Safe Space stickers right in the schools. And that's because of Neola. That's because of Neola. They still get around the laws, and Neola has a history of putting BLM in the curriculum and CRT in the curriculum and the usual left-wing indoctrination acts that they put in the public schools. And that is the consulting firm. I don't believe that a group like that should be the consulting firm. They should be disassociated from Charlotte County. The people and the taxpayers and the citizens should have full representation and should actually be the consultants of Charlotte County schools. When writing the budget and the school board policies, we shouldn't have these outside elite consultants coming in. And we have to do that by being more transparent with live meeting recordings, changing the workshop times, changing the meeting times, actually answer the questions have the questions of the taxpayers actually answered from the Charlotte County School Board, and and rework the workshop meetings so that we could get as many people in as possible, and we can have these taxpayers and parents actually writing policies instead of having these consultants coming over and writing policies and making their schools better for their own local district instead of just have some outsiders doing it. So that's what I want to say, and that's why I'm running for school board. I'm open to questions right now.
Thank you so much. So, just so you know, I want to reiterate, I'm going to ask some standard questions. If you've been here before, you've seen these questions asked every member. If you talk to candidates that have not been here before, when Jim talked to Saseo, he was concerned that he'd get different treatment, and I confess I have biases, and you can see it's hard to contain. I'm going to try to make the most consistent thing these questions every time, and I'm not going to ask any questions without pre-clearing them outside of this for any candidate. What do you believe is the proper role of government, generally speaking?
The proper role of government is to serve the interests of the American people and its constituents first and foremost. Not bow down to any special interests, any higher authority, any big money not got down to any of that, got down to the words and actions and thoughts of this constituents first and foremost, and then use the people's money that it collected to actually benefit them, not some donor special interest.
Thank you. And of course, we're going to all be able to ask any follow-up questions on these questions I'm asking that I'm not able to, unfortunately, which is very, very difficult for me. So I need you to tell me one or two things you agree with the current school board on, or maybe particular members or issues that they're pursuing, and then maybe a couple issues in particular that would be your top priorities to change the ways of the school board that currently is composed.
So ever since Mark Vianello became the superintendent of the schools, it seems like the school board, if you haven't heard, has been coming out with a strategic plan of getting career training opportunities for the students so that they could be prepared for their jobs and their career path once they graduate from college. Starting in high school, they actually have a plan for that, which they submit when they employ and enlist in the military. So it straightens out a path for them, and that's something that I read and I agree with very much with the school board. I don't have very much disagreements with it, but in general, the whole process around it and the work around it does need more representation from the taxpayer. It still does every single policy making that the school board conducts. So including, like what I said again, reworking more workshop meetings, bringing more parents in, board meeting times, and questions answered, actually communicating back and forth with the people and having them writing all of the policies. But the strategic plan that this new superintendent is coming out with, I think is very beneficial.
Thank you again. So as a school board member, do you think that there's an ability to cut the budget and therefore cut taxes and still accomplish your goals as a school board member?
So the weird thing about the school district is that recently in the past couple of years, Charlotte County School District has had a student population of 17,000 to 18,000 students. This year is actually lower. It's 15,000, but yet to accommodate that student population, we have a higher budget than ever before with $518 million. Which is crazy. And if you look into the budget, a lot of that is raising the salaries for the own school board members, and they use that to raise the salaries for teachers as well. But the problem is it won't affect much because the housing prices and the value of property has gone up so much, and they've taken that to their advantage. They have been happening to actually run deficits at the end of each school year, but they only recover the deficits because the property values are so high. So it's not a good long-term strategy for actually spending on the budget. So the millage right now is $467 million, and it's also been higher than ever before. I don't like the property tax millage. I think it should be lowered, and you should generally cut spending. And they're using none of their reserves. The way they spend their money is not very realistic in the very long term, because eventually, when property value will come down, they will end up with these deficits. But the property value might be so low in which they wouldn't recover these deficits like they have been. So I wouldn't stop all these practices of spending and ending up in deficits at the end of each school year.
Thank you for that. Should I interrupt? I just have a few more of the RLC ones. Yeah, sure, we can do it that way. I was trying to blow through them all. I'm not going to argue with this guy.
I don't know if you would know anything about this yet, but I believe that just like the rest of the government, it's top-heavy, okay? The principals, the bureaucracy, a lot of the money's going there, not a lot's going to teachers and even probably the materials, but do you have any thoughts on the top-heaviness of the school board and the bureaucracy and the waste that's there?
If that's what he was referring to my campaign strategy for 26.
I say the bureaucracy is very, pretty much too much to say. I mean, they do raise the teachers' wages, but that's to raise the wages for everyone else in the bureaucracy. And so they can phrase it that way, oh, we're raising teachers' wages, and Charlotte County is like the second highest in the state. But that's just to raise their own. That's just to raise their own wages. And comparatively speaking, if you look at salaries and how much they're going into salaries, not that very much is going into teachers. It's all facade, and it's just going into their own money, into their own pockets, and they're taking it in, and that's just a way to ramp up the spending, which is unnecessary. We have a lower student population, we should be having less spending, and they're just using this as a reason. Well, this is a reason. It's just a general politician trick that they do to raise their own salaries and have nobody else really realize and have a problem with.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. Yes, sir. I'm not sure if it's okay with you, if it's not imminent. What I was mentioning before is I'm not sure if it's too much to ask for the holding back until I get through the 7 and then follow up with every single question. That'll make it easier on me. It's just my teacher in me that is going berserk. But I'm not going to argue with the boss. So he's still the boss. So anyway, really, this one actually is kind of in my wheelhouse, and I want to kind of extrapolate the question because I remember when Dave was no offense, Dave, when you were asking this question, the civics teacher in me, I'm a very constitutionalist, is kind of my hobby, civics teacher, is asking about the general welfare and what expenditures by the school board are not relevant to the general welfare. Now, I want to give a little disclaimer on this because general welfare is a federal issue, so role of government is what I want you to focus on. The general welfare, I can explain to anyone later if you want about general welfare, but there's some debate about general welfare. So beyond the federal government, even local and state, where do you think there might be places where the school board and the spending might be overstepping the bounds of the role of government, whether it be federal, state, or local?
So some of the unnecessary spending that they might, that I think they are doing is in terms of capital. They spent over $100 million on capital, and they've increased the spending on capital, even though we really don't need it. Some of which, $30 million of which is to demolish Port Charlotte Middle, and they want to do that because they get complaints after Hurricane Ian that some of the systems in the bathrooms aren't working. Truth be told, that's actually every high school, and every school I've been to, their bathrooms are malfunctional and dysfunctional. So that's something that is not unique to Port Charlotte Middle. They want to demolish part of the building and waste $30 million to completely renovate it. And if they don't do that, they're going to do that by raising the millage on property. So, and if they don't manage to get that through, they're planning to ask $30 million from the state. So I think all that is completely unnecessary, and I've heard some unique ideas like selling the school, and I would be open to that. I think it's an interesting idea to sell the school instead of the public school district wasting $30 million to demolish it on their own and wasting taxpayers' money on it and the state's money.
We can talk off this. I'd love to talk to you about this. This is actually some of my doctoral work right here. So anyway, I'm going to do kind of a lightning round part of this. So I'm looking for very itemized answers. As a member of the school board, what will you do to give me some precise examples of where you can cut away spending or items in the budget that might be a waste?
Well, first of all, the capital, we don't need to be spending $30 million to demolish Port Charlotte Middle, completely unnecessary. Also, there are some renovations that are unnecessary that the school district is doing that we can cut back on. And in terms of salary, I don't think I would touch very much on teacher's salary too much, but in general, school board member's salary and the bureaucrats who work with the school board and the consultants would decrease the spending on that.
Do you see any limitations the school board presents that you could eliminate? So there might be rules or procedures or things that you would want to get out of the way as soon as you could.
Rules and procedures to get out of the way. I mean, I just cut the spending and you can, if you do the math and you combine that with cutting back on the village, I would get rid of lower the village, and yeah, I just do all that and cut the spending.
I was able to combine two of the questions, so we're going to go around. If you don't mind, just in order to be orderly, I'm trying to think of whether hand up for a second. You did. I'm going to go this way this time, and I'm going to weave through just because it will make it easier, I think, to know. So I'm going to go in order of hands up and keep going this way, and I'll go back in the circle.
What do you think that causes cost of the unnecessary curriculums like social emotional learning, CRT, and that? How does that cut into the budget and take away from what is really necessary, like history and writing and such?
I need to bring in the microphone, guys. I'm sorry, one died.
So a lot of the spending on CRT-related curriculums and stuff like that are done with the mental health welfare funding that the school board is doing, which I think is now around 30 to 50 million that they're spending with mental health. So a lot of it they get from the state in terms of mental health. But NEOLA gets around that, and they provide CRT training, racial-based training, and they all use that to pay for the stickers and other trainings as well, and requiring students to take tests about it, and that's what they do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Total waste of money.
Yeah.
A detailed question, the 1776 project, incorporating that in the curriculum. Who would we talk to about that? Is there a specific person who would be responsible for trying to get that implemented in the curriculum? Sure. Then I have just one other question.
So every year the school board works on the curriculum around July to August. They have curriculum work. They don't invite too many parents to it, but I would make sure I would invite in as many people as possible. Now, with the 1776 project, the curriculum does not have to be 1776 project word for word. All I'm saying is that 1776 project is a appropriate blueprint to have the curriculum, and then the 1776 project curriculum aligns with the Florida state curriculum for the most part. And so you have the 1776 project curriculum, and I would imagine we have a curriculum workshop with all the parents and teachers, and get everyone included. And then you have questions and concerns, and then you go and work the curriculum. And I say we have 1776 project as kind of the blueprint, but it doesn't have to be exactly word for word. If the majority or a group of people disagree, they can ask to change it, and then add stuff to the curriculum that they might want, as long as it applies to state curriculum.
And that's in July?
Yeah, around July and August.
Around July. Yep.
It's interesting because actually they're transforming curriculum as we speak to in Florida. So it's a moving project right now because, like Like civics is new this year, for example. I haven't even seen it, honestly, because I changed world history. Who's next for questions? Andy?
I don't know if it's going to go back to me or not, so I'm going to just do two quick ones. Why do you think they're trying to block the phones? Do you think it is because they don't want you recording the teachers teaching all this crap about chopping your penis off and stuff like that? And do you feel like the schools in Florida, you know, I'm from Michigan, so I know it's different, I've been there, look and feel like prison? Does it look like a school to prison pipeline?
So, answering the first question about the phones, I don't trust on a couple issues. Some of the lawmakers in Florida in general, they're very corrupt, and I see that they do apply some authoritarian tactics. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason they applied the phone law, so that you couldn't record. They wouldn't have cameras in the classroom. You don't have cameras in the classroom because they're scared of transparency and accountability on the part of teachers. I wouldn't be surprised if they apply the phone law and to prevent recording. And in fact, Charlotte County Public Schools has a bit stricter policy on the phone law than state law. For example, the state law says that a teacher can permit the phone for educational purposes.
Okay.
The school district just has a blanket ban, bell to bell, on all phones, no matter what. Teachers can't even permit it for educational purposes. So I think that's a big concern. In terms of the prisons, no, I might have exactly different perspective on schools being prisons. I see where you're getting,
Right.
but the thing is, I know you went. A lot of people went to a school when it was like free and open, and you could just walk in, and sometimes you grab a gun. I'm younger, so I've never really experienced that. I actually kind of got used to and kind of got mental conditioning. Got used to the schools being like that and being like prisons, but I see why they feel like prisons. And you go to a prison and it's just like a public school, and I think it's considered.
The licensing of barbed wire and all that is a new phenomenon. The thing that I was going to commentate on, this is because of factual matters. So pay attention to the Republicans has passed a cell phone ban. Like a certain teacher you might know, this one might allow the phones to be out, and I don't care. I don't have anything to hide. Do I think cameras in the classroom are a good idea? Not exactly, because there's issues that come up that are about kids' dealings at home. And I spoke on this when Jim Barber was running, and I'm about as freedom-oriented as you get, but there are things that you wouldn't believe that I'm told in the classroom that you don't want the parent of that child to know, and they don't tell me. And I work in a title school. There are things on national news that they rip my heart out. I'm just telling you, there are things that you would not want public access to seeing because it would restrict children's ability to report behavior that you guys would find abhorrent that we've discussed in other settings. Just so you know. And you can guess that I'm a transparency person. I let the kids record. That's against the rules of my school. Like he mentioned, similar in the county, but you can imagine the things that I have to hear that you want me to hear that I never would if I had the parents watching. And those are the parents who would watch. I assure you, because they're worried about that. Andrea, I'm going to have you be second. Is it okay to put this thing?
I'm wondering about the committee or whoever goes over the books that are allowed in school. It seems that these sexually explicit books are making their ways into the libraries, and our kids are, have access to that. Who is in charge of that?
The superintendent is in charge of that, and recently you had the superintendent remove books. It caused a bit of national news backlash at the school district, and even Southern Poverty Law Center threatened to sue over the superintendent removing books that feature gay characters in them. I don't really have a strong opinion. I I think the books itself, the law is mostly enforced, and like I have a problem with back then when they had books depicting pornography and all that stuff, and I've seen books like that. They're no longer in the shelves anymore. All of them were removed. But a thing about books that I think we could change is just get agreement of our contract with Scholastic Book Fair, which is a corrupt company that included a lot of these books with pornography in them. I think we could use an alternative like Break Book Fair. We should be open to alternatives, not just stick with the mainstream like that.
He's not like a superintendent, but there's also people that actually are assigned. There's like a group of people that are trained to review the books that got the pornographic ones off the shelf. And I was shocked to see some of the things that were on the shelf. Like, there's things I'm not comfortable speaking to you about on a microphone. There were books that were like explicit material about kids, for kids, to kids. And even people who are the people hanging the flags in their windows in my classroom, when I explained to them, they were trying to sneak them in. And I said to them, I'm like, let me show you two things, and you tell me you want these two books in the room. They pulled them immediately. They put them in their car.
Could I comment on that?
In fact, in Charlotte High, they do have projects, and students do draw like the LGBT colors and LGBT flags on them, and they do hang it up on the classroom walls of the teacher. Just wanted to say that.
It's even beyond sexuality. It's about like, I don't know, but definitely like there's things that are like women's hygiene that is neglected, being demonstrated, and like reusing products and sexual activity happening during that. It's beyond my imagination. How to give a blowjob, is it?
So, I'm new to the county here. I moved here from Miami in December. And a comment on your remark about concentration camps in schools. I don't know what you've experienced here, but my oldest son, who's now 20, he went to Southridge High in Miami, and that is a concentration camp. They have barbed wires around the schools. It's like going through Auschwitz to get in and out. I substituted there for a while. The school sucks and should be closed down completely. Don't know what you have here because I haven't seen the schools, but that needs to be looked at. Number two, and be aware of that, parents, it is now very common for students in high school to sell themselves sexually to both teachers and other students in exchange for grades. So you get somebody to do your homework because you don't know what you're doing. Instead of learning, you hand it over to somebody in exchange for sexual favors, and that is a reality from 9th grade. Going back to what you guys said about the defunding politicians, absolutely I'm in agreement with that. Give them minimum wage. Why are we paying them high salaries when they're not serving us? They are to be servants of us. They are to be for the people and not to profit on it. And that goes for our senators and our governors and anybody in Congress as well. Why are we not defunding the politicians? And what are you going to do about as you're running for school board to implement, instead of spending money on politicians and bureaucrats, spend it on lessons such as implementing swimming. We're surrounded by water here, everywhere in Florida, whether it's the beach, pools, or intercoastals. Why not spend it on swimming lessons, mandatory in school, which is, by the way, mandatory in Denmark, for 2 years. And there are ways to set that up that can save lives. Number two, home economics and woodwork. What would you like to do about that? And then take the money away from these piece of shit woodwork.
Thank you. Are you Danish?
Yeah, well, I'm American now.
I'm heritage-wise a Dane. I have Danes in my house right now from Denmark. So I thought that was really cool. I'm going to let Leonardo address this one real bit. And then Sandra,
Yeah, Charlotte County Schools budget has a great potential about that. I don't remember if I mentioned before, the Charlotte County Schools has a $30 million budget reserve. And I mean, that's a reserve that you could spend these things on while at the same time cutting the budget and then cutting the taxes. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. We should defund politicians. Give them minimum wage. I'm all for that. I don't like these career politicians going in. I don't want to be a career politician whatsoever. I mean, I don't. Some people want me to be president. I'm not sure I want to be president. I don't want to climb a political ladder and all of that. I'm just doing this because I care for Charlotte County schools, and so yeah, we have great potential into spending something that will improve like mandatory swimming and acrobatics or even gun training. I mean, I think what we used to do back in the day is we used to have like middle schoolers give them gun training classes. We should bring that back.
I have a picture of my father in his gun training class. Still, he's a long-time teacher.
Leonardo, thank you for running for office. My question is, what role do you believe parents should play in public education in Charlotte County?
Parents most definitely play the most important role in the decision-making of Charlotte County. Unfortunately, this current school board doesn't really want parents involved in their decision-making process whatsoever. Whenever they give an input speech, they just disregard it. I think reworking the workshop and reworking the board meetings and being transparent, getting back to the parents with their questions answered, and then try to work with them, especially with the standard workshop. The workshop right now, it's on a work day. When everyone is working on a Wednesday, we should move into like the weekends, okay? We should move into a time that works for everyone and getting as many parents and many teachers, everyone in as possible to make the decisions. They should be writing the rules for Charlotte County schools, not Neola consultants or someone from Tallahassee or someone from Northeast Ohio, okay?
A statement I want to read, and I want to know if you agree with it, disagree with it, or have any comments on it. Education of children is a service that parents desire and are willing to pay for. Instead of having government provide educational services, it is preferable to remove government from the equation and allow education consumers and providers to exchange with each other through private transactions.
I agree. I think inherently the government schools in the public school district is inherently a very lackluster and flawed system. I think it always has, even when it's been in its best days, regarded in the 50s and 60s when America had the top and the best education in the Western industrialized world, in the whole entire world, in fact, until we got the Federal Department of Education in there. And I think getting government in the school, I mean, the inherent problem with it is getting government in the schools. Overall, it's very authoritarian. You have government taking their kids to school and teaching them, rather indoctrinating them with a curriculum that the government decides, and then you don't even know if that curriculum is even decided by the people or not, just decided by bureaucrats. So I think there's a lot of problem that there's a lot of corruption with that. And I think usually private schools and home schools perform much better, and I've seen students perform much better than that. In fact, I want to say I don't want to take my kids to public school whatsoever. I know I'm in the school, but I don't want to take my kids to public school whatsoever. If there was a climate in which we wouldn't have government schools and we have private enterprise in education, I think that overall, basic economics, I mean, competition improves the education. You have competition in the education system, education will naturally improve. So I think I totally 100% agree that public schools and government schools are a big problem, and something we have to deal with, unfortunately.
Thank you, Leonardo. So this is one of those what's going on. I'm going in a full circle to make sure it's equal going around. That's what I'm trying to balance. I want to make sure you know, last call for food. Or we can get drinks for a little longer after that. But if you have a food order, please go directly to the bar and get your food or dinner orders in right now. And I'm going to go one more circle. We're about at the time that we were anticipating. Just so you know, for anticipation purposes, we're going to have a little speaking break for me in the middle, and we're going to learn about how we can recruit independent voters for about 5 to more minutes, depending on audience questions. Okay.
I just want to mention that Amantri has joined the Charlotte County Republican Party to associate herself as a Republican, which she is not. And that has to be known to our voting public. That's all.
Leonardo, I just wonder if you want to speak to that, and maybe what your future contemplation is, REC or political affiliation, any political affiliation you might want to seek.
I'm not planning on necessarily serving in any government position right now. I'm just concerned with school board. I would be open to being a part of the REC. What I like to do in general is just public service. So whether that be in politics or the military, unfortunately the military is pretty corrupt right now and fighting in or wars. So military is out of the question. Or even public school teacher, because I think there is a negative aspect that comes with public school education. I want to make a difference in that. I just like public service. I'm not in it for the money or for the interests of the donors. I don't want to climb the ladder or whatsoever. I just want to do what's right for my community.
You're right. It weighs on me every day, honestly. Torn.
I have an issue with all schools need to start paying attention to teachers. If they have a discipline problem, the parents need to be contacted to know what the problem is. We had a problem with a grandchild, not my child, my grandchild, in a class, and they thought they called in the nurse, they called in the school officer, and determined that she had been abused at home. Well, she's in our home part of the time and somewhere else. She was not abused. I got a golf ball in the mail that she sucked on and got her face with red stuff all over it and it was looking bruised. I went to the school, picked her up, took her to the pediatrician, I would take pictures of her because my golly, they were going to try to take that kid away from my daughter.
Leonardo, I can actually speak to that after you answer politically.
I feel very sorry for that. And so, in regards to discipline and the bullying problem, I mean, back then, more in the past, actually, it's relatively recent. It was until about 10 years ago in which superintendents, which would be doing the job, would regularly expel or suspend all students who engage in bullying or violent acts against other students. Since then, you've had a dramatic increase of that, and not just this school districts in all across the country. This is actually a problem within the Federal Department of Education. So there is an Obama rule within the Federal Department of Education that states, that to expel a student from a public school, it has to be equal among all the races. Because before, it was disproportionately black students getting expelled for bullying and violent actions. But then Obama rule came in, and then decided, no, it has to be equitable, it has to be equal. So therefore, that enticed superintendents to stop expelling the students because they have to be equal. Although they can't realistically be equal, they just have to look at the case and just expel the students. It doesn't matter what their race is. So this is a big problem that comes from federal bureaucracy, actually. Many people don't know about it.
I'm really proud of you right now. Part of the commentary, but the field. Yes. Yes. Right now, am I okay?
He held the microphone
they're asking if you can speak a little bit in the mic. But a lot of it is the microphone is so efficient that instead of here, yeah. So
Your Mac, distance makes E overrides the mic and holds it close.
yes,
Sync it so it doesn't broadcast to the next one.
there's no speakers there. Yeah, there's no speakers there. So just FYI, if someone reports something, they're not allowed to inform if it goes to DCI. But before that, he identified a key component of the problem. There was also accommodations that can affect reporting. So I don't know individual case, I'm not going to ask the public obviously, but accommodations for behavior, academics can affect discipline and contact depending on procedures. I'm not endorsing anything, I'm just speaking actually what I know as a teacher for 30 years.
Well, I was part of the line of volunteers, so I know what that is. They have a business.
So, Leonardo, you brought up another topic that some people know here on the local protester, that I've been protesting, which indoctrination and propaganda, is that what is going on in schools? Because that's one of my protests, is that it seems like they're literally indoctrinating kids into be little gay communists, and to turn them into little brown shirts. You know, if one of their friends maybe did something wrong, or mommy and daddy did something wrong, can you turn them in? I mean, it really feels like, sadly to say, Nazi Germany all over again. What's your opinion?
Yeah, so in terms of indoctrination, the political environment of the public schools does lean to the left and does lean that way. Like, for example, when I started getting open about my politics, my conservative politics in the school, I got reported to the dean's office by band kids, and I got my First Amendment violated. But yet today, they still pretend like the LGBT people and the people on the left are the victims. But then, I mentioned this before, it's actually conservative students who actually hold traditional Christian values that are more bullied and more discriminated within the school districts. And they're very more like open. Like, if you, for example, in middle schoolers say a lot of dumb things. They make a lot of jokes about dumb things. Sometimes are racially insensitive. Like, for example, if a middle schooler makes a joke that is like racist or associated with like bigotry, they get expelled. But at the same time, suspended. But at the same time, if they make a joke about being a communist or being a Marxist, then they're okay. That's the only like politically radical joke that is accepted and won't get you bullied or won't get you expelled from the school. But it's the other way around. So, it should all not be tolerated.
Correct.
You are blasting my volume. So everyone, next questions. I want to try to wrap this because we have to go to the quick independent voter reach out and then to Dave Kessler. Thank you very much for being patient with us. I'm enjoying the answers and questions. Anyone else have any questions before we continue? Okay, we'll do this one. Okay, we'll do two more, and then we'll go to our independent voter recruiting.
So you can't fix public school overnight, but there is an option for parents that don't want their kids in public school, and that's called Freedom Project Academy. They are in Wisconsin, run by the John Birch Society. Excellent Christian Judeo education. Not easy to go through. Both of my two middle schoolers are in that school. After we tried again to go back to a public school or a charter school, it was a disaster. So I sent them to Freedom Project Academy. I would like if you would be interested in doing a budget and analysis on how much money you could pull from politicians and bureaucrats and allocate it to those 3 items and throw that in their faces. Because I bet you it could be very well funded.
I know I'm piggybacking a bit here, but maybe while you're answering this, like vouchers, I don't want to be Ron Paul homeschool curriculum guy, anything like this. If you think that public money should be allocated to additional resources, pulling it from public schools so parents have the control of their taxpayer dollars to be portable, is that fair? Am I overstepping with asking generally how we can get money out of the public education and disperse it privately?
I mean, right now, for example, Step Up program is supposed to support following the child, following the child. And I can tell you for a fact, it does not when it comes to these alternative education, such as what my kids are in, because the Department of Education is blocking Step Up. Step Up literally shows that the money is available for us in the account, but it's the Department of Education that has decided that it's okay about virtual schools like Florida Virtual and Christian schools that they'll pay for. But if it's a virtual Christian school or Christian Judeo school, they will not. That is a violation of our constitutional First Amendment rights.
They're limiting the $4 voucher.
Right up there to the legislators and telling us.
The Florida voucher, right? Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that Florida has done recently.
But the money does not follow the kids.
Yeah, the money does not follow kids. Unfortunately, it still goes to the public school bureaucrats. But with reforms, with the right people in charge, you can first of all cut back the salaries that these bureaucrats are wasting. And I would agree. You can send the money to all of them to improve not just the public schools, but the voucher schools and charter schools and the home schools. This is something that we certainly can do, and you just need the right people in charge. Unfortunately, we don't.
Or simply say, if you don't have your kids in public school or charter schools, then you don't need to pay schools tax.
I 100% agree. If you don't have a child in a public school district, you should not pay taxes in the district.
I think we have one more. We're done with this one. All right, everybody. Thank you, Leonardo. Everyone, please give me a round of Thank you for coming to the building. Are you going to be here a while, or are you going to watch? I'm going to stay here. Okay, sir. You're up next. Everyone.